Jacqui runs Crayons and Marketers, which is a great marketing company out of Nashville. And you've done quite a bit of research about multicultural experiences on Alexa and Google Assistant and other voice assistants. Can you tell us about Crayons and Marketers, about yourself, and how did you get into voice in that market research?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Paul. Can you hear me okay? Am I clear? Wonderful. Well, hello, good afternoon. Central time. Paul, I don't know what time it is where you are, but Crayons and Marketers is a full service marketing company using the power of story, strategy, and design to help our clients communicate their brand messages and attract new business. So we've been in business for about 7 years now, and we are a data-driven firm, very much like yours, Paul, and so that's why we work so well together, and we've had an opportunity to work on so many things, and so thank you for having me. Now, we use market research to power just about everything that we're doing. So we work with clients who are B2B, B2C, and we just so happen to have a client out on the West Coast who is a cultural insights marketing agency. And so we are in the data. And so it's one thing to talk about voice control products from a B2B standpoint, but also understanding how consumers use voice products is essential. And so just so happens, we conducted research earlier this year, it was fielded in March, about how consumers use voice control products. And in that study, what we found is that about 50% of the respondents use voice control products, of which, if you can probably guess, 32% were Alexa users and 25% are Google Home. And so there's a sliver of Apple HomePod users, but again, the bulk are dominated by Alexa and Google Home. So if you were to look at that, that's the total market. Now, if you were to drill that down to actual ethnicity and generational cohorts, we find that millennials are the generations that are most likely to use voice control products. And among the ethnic groups, we see Asian Americans are the most likely to own a voice control product, and Hispanics are the least likely.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really interesting data. So tell us more about maybe how you think that kind of data can be used by businesses to take some action, maybe in the environment that we're in now, or heading into the future in 2021.
Well, absolutely. I think it's important as brands continue to try to get in front of today's consumer. And so it's important that we are tuned in to how consumers consume information. And so although text and blogs and things are still relevant and still great, but in today's, atmosphere, we have so much more content, so many more access points that individuals can have information. And so it is essential that companies understand how their consumer base engages content, how they use it, and what opportunities can we use in order to create relevant campaigns on channels that consumers are looking for that information. And if you're looking at multicultural marketing, it is imperative that you understand how these different demographics use technology. If you were to look at Asian Americans and Hispanic consumers, they are very tech-centric. So they are social influencers. They over-index on social media use. They over-index on technology adoption in general. And so knowing that when you're developing your marketing campaigns, you're going to skew toward more digital because you know that's how they consume content.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. I agree. Great point. I think, we talk with Michael from Carrot, and he's on the product development side of the platform, and then integrating the voice app. And I think that it'd be interesting to get your take from a marketing standpoint. If a client were to come to you and just ask you about voice, how would Crayons and Marketers kind of, I guess, reverse engineer that and kind of advise them on how voice could fit within their marketing ecosystem?
You know, and we have amazing clients, and whenever we onboard new clients, they immediately want to go for the new shiny thing. And so we always try to walk our clients back to who is your audience and what are they looking for and what are your goals? What are you trying to do? When you determine your goals and who your audience is and how they consume information, again, that's important. And that's when we get into the conversations of developing buyer personas so that we understand who these individuals are, where they get their information, who they are influenced by. Then we can start talking about the different tactics that we're going to use to reach them. But you won't really be able to do that unless you understand who your consumer or your client is. And so once we determine that, then we can start doing that research to understand how they consume media. And then part of that research is, working with marketing research companies like Think Now, because they are in the multicultural space. And so they understand per cohort how each ethnicity responds to various stimuli in the economy. And so just looking at some of the research from this recent report, when we look at what voice control products are primarily utilized for, we look for music, for example. 66% of individuals surveyed said that they use their voice control products to access music, of which African Americans and Hispanics are the most likely to use it for shopping and ordering, but Asian Americans and women over-index on using it for looking at the weather. And older for checking the news. You would think that would be maybe some young folks trying to see what's going on, trying to get involved, but checking the news on your voice control product actually skews older. And so it's really that information. You have to understand how each demographic utilizes voice control products in order to effectively reach them. Even if you're trying to run an ad campaign on your voice control product, if you don't know who's listening, you won't know if it's going to be effective. You won't know what they're looking for. And so to be super relevant, it really is essential to have the research to be able to develop campaigns that are relevant. And when you look at Hispanic Americans, do they want their Alexa in English or do they want it in Spanish? There's data out there that tells you exactly what they're saying they want, and you need to be tapped into that.